Did you really think you could steal from Joe Miletto and get away with it?
Why are there cops involved? What is going on?
Hey,
you're gonna kill
just
us.
breathe. What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do?
What are we gonna do?
Claire and Phil Foster are jolted awake by their kids demanding breakfast. During the chaotic morning rush, Claire uses her old 1-2-3 warning tactic, while Phil, a New Jersey tax lawyer, forgets to close the drawers, causing a near tumble for Claire. After a long day at work, Claire and Phil both return home exhausted. Their neighbor, Katie, babysits the kids for their date night. Their dinner date, with their usual potato skins and salmon, turns out uneventful. They end up observing and giggling at other couples. Back home, they catch a weird news report about a district attorney vowing to clean the streets while wielding a broom. Phil tries to be romantic, but Claire's already wearing her retainer, putting a halt to their intimacy yet again. On their next date night, Claire dresses up, impressing Phil, who decides that they should go to Manhattan for dinner instead of their usual boring place. They try Claw, a high-end restaurant, even though they don't have a reservation. Since they didn't have a reservation, they are told to wait at the bar and hope that something comes up. Claire considers leaving for a less fancy place, but Phil insists they stay. After some time, they hear a couple called the Tripplehorns being called. Their table is ready, but the Tripplehorns are nowhere to be found.
Tripplehorn, party of two.
After being called out several times, Phil pretends to be Mr. Tripplehorn.
Us. We are the Tripplehorns.
And they are led to the table. Despite Claire's reservations about taking someone else's booking, they stay. The expensive menu doesn't deter them from enjoying the delicious, overpriced risotto and clinking empty wine glasses despite superstition. Observing other couples, they notice Will.i.am with his partner. Phil playfully directs Claire to pose for a goofy photo near him while he captures it. As they finish their meal, Armstrong and Collins, two tough-looking individuals, approach their table and ask if they are the Tripplehorns. Phil and Claire pretend to be the Tripplehorns and are asked to step outside for a moment. Outside, they are threatened and asked to produce the flash drive that they stole from a mob boss called Joe Miletto. They are shocked and tell the two goons that there has been a misunderstanding and that they are not the Tripplehorns. All they did was steal their reservation because they wanted to have one romantic evening. The two goons don't believe them.
Oh, now I'm gonna have to pick that risotto up off the ground to eat it.
Next time you make a dinner reservation, don't use the same alias as your ransom notes, you dick.
So Phil instead says that they hid the flash disc at Central Park. At Central Park, Claire wishes that Phil had chosen a busier spot. They go to the boathouse and find that it is locked. The goons shoot the padlock. Inside, Claire tries a bizarre excuse to buy time. She says that Phil needs medication for his private parts. The goons don't believe them and ask them to point to where the flash drive is. As they search, Phil surprises everyone by knocking out the gunman with an oar, and they make a daring escape onto a slow boat. Under gunfire, they duck and finally reach the other side. Using the boat as a shield, they dash through the woods, screaming until they stumble into a crowded area. The pursuers lose track, leaving them in relief, though Phil feels quite sick. They decide to go to the police station. At the police station, they discuss their situation with Detective Arroyo and mention Joe Miletto. She is also shocked that two grown people decided to steal someone else's reservation. While still explaining themselves, they see the two gunmen walking into the police station. They realize that the goons are actually dirty cops. They get spooked and leave the police station. The Fosters bolt from the police station, panic-stricken, realizing they can't trust anyone due to Joe Miletto's influence. Claire wants to head home, but Phil warns that the bad cops have their IDs, meaning they know where they live. Anxious about their kids' safety, they call Katie, their babysitter, promising extra pay to keep the kids safe. They tell Katie to take the kids to her house, and they'll pay her extra money. She agrees. They spot the dirty cops and escape. In a state of fear, Claire queries Phil about their next move. He insists they locate the real Tripplehorns, holders of the flash drive, and return to Claw. Pretending to be high-profile guests, they make up a story about Will.i.am and his lost phone, while Claire snags the Tripplehorns' reservation number. While leaving, Claire reveals that one of her former clients might be able to trace the Tripplehorns' number, but they'll need to break into her office to access the former client's address. During the break-in, an alarm blares. Claire retrieves grant Holbrook's address despite a mishap with an open drawer. Meanwhile, detectives Arroyo and Walsh confront Joe Mileto at a club, questioning him about the Fosters. Mileto denies knowledge, dismisses the detectives, and contacts Collins about a potential problem. The Fosters arrive at Holbrook's place and are welcomed in after buzzing his apartment. As they climb up, Phil marvels at Claire's exceptional client recall, soon realizing why. Holbrook, shirtless and built like a fortress, stands before them. Phil's visibly uncomfortable, while Claire seems quite impressed. Sharing their story, they seek Holbrook's help in tracing the Tripplehorns' phone number. Meanwhile, Detective Walsh notifies Arroyo about the break-in at Claire's office, and the bad cops, Armstrong and Collins, inquire about the Fosters, but Arroyo dismisses them suspiciously. Moving into Holbrook's high-tech office, equipped with top-notch gear, he employs cutting-edge technology to track down the Tripplehorns. Holbrook discovers that the phone is registered to Tom Felton. He also gets his home address. With the bad cops approaching, Holbrook advises the Fosters to sneak out through his garage. When they reach Felton's place, they ring their bell, but there's no answer. Phil then climbs up using the fire escape, only to discover the messy, disheveled apartment. They go through the apartment looking for the flash drive, but have no luck. Claire hits an open drawer and causes things to fall. During the commotion, the Feltons suddenly wake up, leading to a standoff.
F you, mother effer.
Phil, armed with an antique gun he retrieved, interrogates them. They ask them why they used the fake Tripplehorn name and where the flash drive is. They explain to them that they stole their reservation and now people are after them.
You just took our reservation? Who does that?
What kind of people are you?
The Feltons admit that they were blackmailing the mob boss with the contents of the flash drive. The man hands the flash drive over and tells Phil and Claire to return it themselves. The couple then pack their clothes and run away. The detectives, Arroyo and Walsh, head to Holbrook's, seeking answers. Holbrook deflects their inquiries, urging them to consult other cops. Just as the Fosters hop into Holbrook's car, they face a sudden attack from the two bad cops. As they speed away from the pursuing cops, Phil's evasive driving leads to a head-on collision with a taxi, merging the two vehicles. Attempting to disentangle, Phil's compelled to forge ahead, towing the stuck taxi and a terrified driver along. Amid the chaos, Phil climbs into the taxi through the shattered windshield, instructing Claire to steer and preventing the cabbie from stopping the cars. With a borrowed Kindle, Phil delves into the flash drive's content, only to stumble upon unexpected, scandalous photos involving the DA, Frank Crenshaw, of all people, known for his clean streets mantra. Now hunted by both police and the corrupt cops, Phil guides Claire into a daring maneuver, reversing and using the taxi to navigate a tight turn, narrowly dodging a police barricade. The quick-thinking cabbie then orchestrates a risky move, bringing the vehicles to a halt just inches away from the cops and then propelling forward, allowing them to slip through the chaos. Their elation is short-lived as an SUV disrupts their unity, sending the taxi careening into the river. Phil resurfaces after the plunge, only to realize the flash drive is lost. Detective Arroyo arrives at the scene, questioning the presence of the suspicious Armstrong and Collins. She then orders them to leave. The Fosters, now on the subway, find Phil dressed in Holbrook's tracksuit salvaged from the smashed sports car. Claire inquires about the flash drive's contents, and Phil discloses it contains a ledger detailing the DA's illicit dealings at the Peppermint Hippo bar with prostitutes. They realize the Feltons were actually blackmailing the DA, not Mileto, and the corrupt cops were in cahoots with the DA. Desperate, they seek Holbrook's help again. Though initially disinterested, Phil persuades Holbrook with a plan. Phil and Claire go to the Peppermint Hippo, an illegal strip club that Crenshaw, the DA, frequents, with Claire under the guise of a new prostitute and Phil as her pimp. After performing a pole dance for Crenshaw, they confront him and tell him they are the Tripplehorns. Collins and Armstrong come in and hold them at gunpoint and take them up to the roof with Crenshaw. Mileto arrives with henchmen, and it is revealed that Crenshaw has been paid by Mileto to keep him out of jail. When Phil mentions the photos, an argument escalates between the mobsters and Crenshaw, and Collins and Armstrong talk. Phil asks Claire to count to 3, her typical method of calming their children. When When she does, a helicopter appears and Arroyo and the SWAT team arrest Mileto, Crenshaw, and everyone else, as well as Collins and Armstrong. Arroyo reveals to Claire that she was notified by Grant, who supplied Phil with a wire. They are offered a ride home, but Phil insists on fulfilling his promise for a proper meal. They end up at a diner, relishing a simple yet comforting meal of pancakes. Phil admits he would marry Claire and have their kids all over again if given the chance. Touched, she moves to sit beside him, sharing an intimate moment in the booth. When they return home, they engage in enthusiastic kissing on their front lawn before lying on their backs and watching the sky.